During L.A Noire's opening mission, upon reflection, Cole Phelps stumbles across a little green book that implicates some of the game's most important and major characters in a major corruption scandal. In this video, I'm going to go over the little green book, its contents, and theorize about what they mean for the overall lore of the game. But first, a little trip down memory lane as we relive some of the highlights from the case and figure out just how we got to the little green book. Cole Phelps and Ralph Dunn arrive to the scene of the crime, the murder of one Scooter Payton, where they're met by two of LA's seedier detectives, Finbar, Rusty Galloway, and Floyd Rose. Floyd tells Phelps and Dunn that they were unable to locate the murder weapon, and he lets a few interesting details about Scooter's murder slip through, such as that Scooter was murdered by a white man, and that he was shot twice in the head after being pushed against a random door. After a very brief search, Phelps locates the weapon on a nearby rooftop, and with a bit of questionable police work, they're able to trace the gun to a man named Errol Schroeder. When Phelps and Dunn arrive, Schroeder immediately proclaims his innocence, and given L.A Noire's track record with less than stellar acting, I think it's pretty obvious the man is telling the truth. After some gentle persuasion, Phelps apprehends Schroeder and begins rifling through the man's apartment without a warrant. Inside of Schroeder's dresser, he finds the titular little green book, which contains a list of dates, names, and other unknown numbers. It's never officially stated what anything in the little green book actually means, but it's my belief that Errol Schroeder was a bookmaker, and this is his personal ledger. And now we get to the main event, the names inside of Errol Schroeder's little black book. Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I think the first two names are a dead end. I could not find a single thing about Artie Rosenberg anywhere, not even as a developer of L.A Noire or an associate of a developer, so I think his name was just made up on the spot for flavor text. Sommers might refer to Graham Sommers, but I could only find two things that even support that a character with that name exists: a blank fandom wiki page and a single IMDb credit. If anyone knows what cases he was in, or if he existed at all, please let me know, because I have no idea. The third name is thankfully a little more interesting. Frank Greer was a real person. He was an Olympic rower who participated in the 1904 Summer Olympics, representing America. But he died in 1943, which is 3 years before his entry in this book was written, so I kind of doubt it's him. Clayton is yet another throwaway flavortext name. No connection to any L.A Noire cases or Team Bondi or Rockstar Games, at least as far as I can tell. The next name on Schroeder's list is the most interesting one so far. Ted Rossi is probably Theodore Rossi, an LAPD homicide detective who appears very briefly in the case The White Shoe Slaying. He's also famous for being on the payroll of Leland Monroe, which I think is where the theory that Errol Schroeder is somehow bribing the cops comes from, but given what we'll talk about in a couple of moments here, I don't think that theory makes very much sense. We don't have a first name to go with the next entry, but it's likely that Captain is Sam Captain. He's an LAPD patrolman who first appears during the case A Marriage Made in Heaven. He also appears during the traffic street crime Death from Above and the homicide street crime Death Plunge. Another flavor text entry for Frank Greer, here to showcase that people don't just show up on this list once and then disappear. And then Leroy Tate, another LAPD patrolman whose first appearance is during the case Buyer Beware. He also appears during the homicide street crime Honey Boy, and he makes a brief guest appearance in the arson DLC case Nicholson Electroplating, just after Ray Pinker's little prank. Page 2 starts with another surname-only entry. Dalby might be Clem Dalby, our third LAPD patrolman, who appears during the Vice cases The Black Caesar and Manifest Destiny. We get another flavor text name with no meaning or significant connection to L.A Noire as far as I can tell, and then our fourth LAPD patrolman, Fred Wallace, who is first seen during the White Shoe Slaying, then later again in the case The Black Caesar, The Naked City, and lastly, in Manifest Destiny. I'm going to skip an entry and just really quickly say that Mazuwelski and Angelo Santana are both flavor text names with no meaning or connection. And then there's two entries on here for Floyd Rose, the guy who sent us to Schroeder's apartment, and a guy with one of the larger debts and more frequent payment plans, it seems. Here's another thing you might not know about our boy Floyd Rose. Not only is he a gambler and a debtor, but he also is the detective who takes a sudden leave of absence at the start of the homicide desk, leaving a nice convenient opening for our boy Cole Phelps to slot into. Now it's time to bring it all home, so break out your cork boards and your little red bits of string as I explain what I think actually happened during the case upon reflection. Put simply, I think Floyd Rose is the real murderer, not Errol Schroeder. Errol Schroeder's initial reaction to the arrival of Phelps and Dunn is one of complete disbelief. He seems to have genuinely expected to find his gun still in his dresser, although why he attacked Phelps and Cole, I can't really say. Given his association with a lowlife like Scooter Payton and the sketchy nature of his little green book, I think it's safe to say that Errol Schroeder probably has priors and is assuming that the LAPD are attempting to pin him for a murder he did not commit. It's a little up in the air who actually murdered Scooter Payton, but my bet is on Floyd Rose for a couple of reasons. First off, he owes Errol Schroeder money, which is a fantastic motivator. It makes a lot more sense to assume that Schroeder is a bookie and Floyd is in his debt, because if Schroeder is bribing him, why would he go after the guys giving him free money? It just doesn't make any sense, unless Floyd suddenly grew a conscience and wanted to clean up the street. Second, he has the opportunity. He's probably meeting Scooter to give him money to give to Schroeder. All he needs is the third part, the means. He just has to steal Errol Schroeder's gun, and then put Scooter Payton up against a wall and shoot him. I think the sole flaw in Floyd Rose's plan was the witness, who saw a white man put 2 rounds in the back of Scooter Payton's head. If it wasn't for one random eyewitness account, this would have been a flawless murder, but now he has to flee the scene in an effort to make himself seem less suspicious, more incompetent. He's got to look like he's actually following up on this witness's description of the killer, even though he knows the witness is describing him. That's why he requests 2 patrolmen to find the murder weapon, instead of finding it himself and going directly after Schroeder. Now, he just has to hope that those 2 cops don't ask too many questions and don't get any ideas above their station. In closing, I just want to thank the fantastic Kevin MacLeod for the backing track you've all been enjoying while listening to my schizophrenic ramblings. I want to thank those of you who actually bothered to watch all the way to the end of the video. Your support, your likes, your comments, and your subscription mean a whole hell of a lot to me. So, with nothing more to say, I guess I'll wish you well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whatever time of day it is where you are, and may your God, or your gods, go with you.